The customer can save a lot of money and a lot of time by not making wrong decisions. People generally do speak about sourcing and they don't do the distinction between sourcing and outsourcing. Even the 10-20% less efficiency is compensated by the total cost.
Hello everyone, welcome to this new video. I'm Guillaume Rondan, founder of MoveToAsia, and in today's video I'm joined with Pietro. Pietro is my co-founder of a company called FVSource. FVSource is one of the leading players in Asia about outsourced manufacturing. So in today's video, we're going to discuss about that, about what is outsourced manufacturing in 2026 and how to implement an effective outsourcing manufacturing for large-scale companies that are looking for capacity, scale, and then reduce cost as well. Hello Pietro, thanks for joining us today. Can you start by a quick introduction about yourself?
Yes, hello Guillaume, nice to be here today. My background is from management consulting since 2007 at the Finnish trade organization. Previously to that, I was working very long time in the electronics industry. In 2009, I came here to Vietnam to open the first trade organization offices here for Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. And later, in 2014, I created my own company, FinC, to support companies in their market entries and also in the manufacturing outsourcing industry.
Thank you, Pietro. So, Pietro, first question our audience may have is, what is outsourced manufacturing for SMEs or MNCs?
I think people generally do speak about sourcing and they don't do the distinction between sourcing and outsourcing. My philosophy is that sourcing is something where the customer is looking for a certain product from the territory of Vietnam, for example. So they are not so interested about manufacturing process itself, but very much about the product. And when we speak about outsourcing, it's more like finding supplier network, which can make all kind of products for what the customer is requiring. Shortly, sourcing is very much B2C type of operation, whereas outsourcing is very much B2B. And the end products are used by the customer's own processes and own products.
Okay, so it's super clear. So basically, a company wanna delegate and outsource part of the production, so more in a B2B environment, and they will be looking for a supplier that will provide all the tech pack, all the requirements, and for this, they will basically be looking at a partner that they can work together on a certain production. What are the other parameters that can be considered in these nuances between sourcing and outsourcing?
The processes are different in that respect, that when you are looking for a supplier network to make your products, first of all, you are looking for a longer term partnership, not necessarily supplier-customer relationship, which imposes that you are using the same parameters to find the supplier than what you are using in your own existing production and quality control. So the selection is very much stricter and takes more time to go through.
So in the end, shortly, you will be renting the production line of a factory. SME or an MNC can basically outsource and can basically rent this capacity elsewhere to gain what?
You're right, it's like renting capacity, and this is due to many reasons. It might be that you are developing a new supply chain completely. You don't have enough capacity in general in your production, and ramping up your own capacity might be taking so much time that you cannot wait until that's ready. You might have a large volume orders coming suddenly. You don't have the capacity. You need to find a solution, and in many cases the solution is outsourcing for third parties by controlling anyhow the process completely and being able to produce larger volumes that way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the reasons are economical. You are looking for better cost structure. They might be geopolitical, like we have seen lately. So geopolitics in general are driving decision making to a high level at the moment. And China plus one is one example of the thinking what is happening. Then there are several other reasons also. End customer might be willing to have all the products made out of China. So this is more or less like an image question, especially coming from when you are making consumer products. In the industrial sector, that is not so much in front.
And it can also be policy-wise, right? Like a company may not want to set up their own operation, their own factory elsewhere, and they rather rely on an existing partners that have already done similar product, or that can just, again, rent the capacity, rent the production, instead of having to put an upfront investment of few $100,000 up to maybe few millions. They can immediately scale up a production, so they gain speed and they gain also resilience because they have a supply chain that already out there and that they can somehow just use.
It is also the fastest solution if you need capacity increase. Investment in your own factory or own facilities is taking 3 to 12 months minimum before you can ramp up the production. You need to find the facilities, you need to know raw material supply chains, and several things. You need to have the staff and run the operation, training, everything. So it's a very long way. Outsourced manufacturing is very fast. A typical supplier search with all criteria and visits at the factories, it's like 10 to 12 weeks only. And then you basically are ready for ramping up your production. It can be used as project-based. It can be used also to compensate during the time if you are setting up in the final end your own facilities.
It's very clear, Pietro. So let's say you have a client in Indonesia, right? You have an upcoming factory. You are part of a group that is building a factory in Indonesia. You would rather outsource the production to Vietnam, which is closer to Indonesia in terms of the distance, and also have already the capacity and then establish factories, for instance, that can provide steel structure, right?
Yes.
And then it would make sense, instead of doing it in the US or somewhere else, to have the production at this exact location. So you will rely on everything, and in the end, you save cost, you save capacity, and then you have a supply chain that is robust and well designed. That's what you mean.
That is the case. We have had many cases like this. So the end product doesn't go back to the customer's country, but instead it's shipped directly to the facility, for example, where the customer is building a production line in a factory and things like that. And we have seen this happening many times. Sometimes they are even very near here, but sometimes they might be in South America, USA, and sometimes even for one Finnish customer, we have had shipments to Sweden from here. It's a combination of factors why companies are outsourcing in the region, in Asia, for example. So there is obvious reason is the total cost structure, which is cheaper here. But then there is this additional case, you don't have the capacity. But we also do have brand owners who don't have any manufacturing capacity themselves. Everything is outsourced. So outsourcing, yes, it's not anymore the normal outsourcing where you are seeking for new capacity, but it's because you don't have any production capacity. You are only having the brand, you have the sales, you have the design, but everything is then made by somebody else. And this is the case also where sometimes you have several points of outsourcing which are shipping into one factory, which is then doing the assembly, final assembly. And even that assembly factory can be outsourced. So there is no strict limits, no strict rules or anything. So we have several different individual cases where this is outsourcing is happening.
Thank you for those inputs, Pietro, because you have had more than 100 projects in implementing outsourced manufacturing operation in Asia. Have you seen any hidden costs to choose that over building your own operation, building your own production capacity?
The hidden cost might be coming from poor logistics, for example. It is important when you are outsourcing also to ensure that the logistics costs are taken care. You might have hidden costs when you have a logistics supply chain where you have different players and not only one company taking care of the whole. If you are in Europe, in USA, the last kilometers, which means after the sea transport, the land transportation can be very costly also. So all those must be evaluated and analyzed before making cost controlling calculation. Otherwise, I don't see real hidden cost in that way. Efficiency and these things can be an issue sometimes, but when you are operating in a low-cost country, even the 10-20% less efficiency is compensated by the total cost savings which are coming.
I want to add something and provide more inputs about that. Obviously, when you are thinking about outsourcing somewhere, first you need to make sure that the country is suitable for a certain product category. If we consider, for instance, Vietnam, we have few industries: garments, steel, aluminium and metal in general, furniture, and then there start to be a rise of electronics, or at least assembly for electronics. Components will be sourced overseas, some raw materials will be also imported, but then you have those core industry that make Vietnam having a certain advantage. Then when you choose that country, first, of course, you need to start by one supplier. So that first supplier may provide you a first capacity, but this supplier may himself already outsource part of his production somewhere else. Then when you are looking into implementing an outsourced manufacturing strategy, of course, you need to first start with the first footprint in the country. But after that, you have also to build up your own ecosystem and subcontracting network yourself, and then develop it. So maybe first you will have some hidden costs, because obviously if you work with an assembly line, they will take a markup price on each of the product that we'll be buying from their subcontracting network.
Absolutely.
But after that, project after project, iteration after iteration, you can also reduce that markup, build a more resilient supply chain within the country, and finally, after some months, some years, you ended up having a very effective and sustainable outsourced operation that will be also more effective in a way that they are partners. They are not part of your group, they are not part of your operation. If you need to downsize your operation, they are just partners. So that resilience also can provide to groups, SMEs, a very effective way to build up the supply chain while still benefiting from a lot of different aspects.
I think from the customer's point of view, it's important to understand and to be able to control the full value chain, which means that if your supplier is having subcontractors, you need to know them, you need to evaluate them as well. And this is key importance, because after starting the production, for example, in Vietnam, you need to ensure also the quality control, you need to ensure the timings and all these kind of things. And if you don't know your supply chain, you might have something in there which is not known for you, and you cannot be sure that the quality, for example, is in place. What comes to the other markups? So it is very typical that there is one supplier who takes care of the subcontractors also. It's okay as long as we are in the same industry. If we have a steel metal type of supplier for structures, and they are then outsourcing one part of the structures for some reason, then things are quite well in control. It becomes more complicated when you are speaking about assembling some kind of machine, for example, where you need to have plastic parts, you need to have cables and wires, maybe PCBs and metal parts, all combined. And our view is that in those kind of cases, the customer should develop their own supply chain for all the different industries to ensure that everything is in place. Then have one company doing the full assembly using that existing supply chain. I think that is very important. This comes for like home electronics or things like heaters or things like that, which involve both electronics, electrical and metal parts. So it's important to fully control the supply chain in that case. This is also from price-wise important. So you need to negotiate your various components prices also, so that they are cost competitive when the totality is made.
You highlight something important is about quality, and then when you will ramp up a production while doing outsourced manufacturing, very often you cannot only rely on the partner that you found, but you need to have also your own operation or a team in country that can bridge the gap between the capacities, the expectation, and then the standards that you are requesting compared to what your supplier is able to do. And then you may have a gap that have to be filled. So you will have to go to some iteration at the beginning. You have to do a lot of different tests, and you have to really be hands-on a certain project and have your team that has a lot of ownership. Because if you don't do that properly, then you will go to also a lot of mistakes, and then you will learn through the pain points.
Absolutely. Right? It is very common. One of the first questions we have from the customers who are contacting us is the question that after I have my suppliers, do you provide some kind of services for quality control and handling the process of manufacturing and so on? So there is two ways of doing this. Sometimes the customer does want to come to Vietnam, for example, be part of the ramp up, then make regular quality controls and things like that on site. But that's more rare than customers who are looking for a third party service provider taking care of this issue. So the quality control has to be in place to avoid faulty products and to be sure that the container which is received is of qualified products, whatever they are. Lead time control, process control is also something which has to be kept. Many times these orders which are made here in Vietnam are time critical also at the same time. So the goods have to leave a certain date. Otherwise the whole process is derailing already from the beginning. But there is no unique case, I can say. Customers are different and each case is different. Sometimes we need to have the turnkey services available. Sometimes we need something in between turnkey and own process control.
So implementing an effective outsourced manufacturing strategy is a blend of an appropriate and comprehensive study first to be able to shortlist the most suitable suppliers, but is also that combination of having an operational team that can also later on make that idea reality, right? It's not just you look at a good supplier and you expect that suppliers to be able to work directly with your requirements, fitting everything that you will expect first, but you need to also blend that with an operational and hands-on support to be able to ramp up the production. That's what you need.
That is very important. So there is two important things in the process. First important point is to really have a good preparation to find the suppliers. It means that all the details must be available before starting to look suppliers. Quality levels, all different parameters. Only having those can guarantee that suppliers which are coming out from the long listing and short listing are qualified suppliers. The second thing is really the production control. Vietnam is still a developing country. Many other developing countries in the region have the same issue. You need more effort to run through the production than, for example, in Western countries. Automation levels are lower here. There's a lot more manual work, which increases the possibilities of mistakes, faulty products, and things like that. So the process has to be very well controlled during the production and also with the final inspections, which are typically sampling before loading to the containers. The key message is that the whole process has to be very well prepared, especially in the first time when it's done. Later on, by extending the supplier network and having the operation already in place, it's an easier task. There is no doubt about that. Then the consideration is also that as the foreign company has the capacity of taking care of the production control. Some have not, some want, some don't want at all. They want to find a third party who is taking care of everything after they have placed the orders to the suppliers.
And how do you think 2026 look like? From my own observation, I see a shorter amount of capability in terms of workforce, in terms of labor. We hear in Europe, like less and less companies are able to employ workforce. You have the timeline that are very often also shortened. So companies expect faster result, the price that will be going down. And at the same time, you have all those disruptions around in terms of the supply chain since COVID lately. Those three factors make outsourcing manufacturing made it a preferable option for many European or US companies that are looking to build up a resilient and more sustainable supply chain. What are for you, Pietro, the message for 2026 and beyond?
It's a good question because in general, the worldwide economy is picking up or has been picking up already some time. And the message what we get right at this moment from the field, for example, in the metal structures, is that lead times are getting longer, capacity is lesser, there is quite good order books already at factories, and we can expect maybe even some shortages of capacity for next year. I am not good in making forecasts in this kind of thing, but that's what we hear from the market for the moment. We saw this kind of situation after COVID also, when the industry was kind of picking up quite rapidly, and we clearly run into a situation where some of our normal suppliers were having order books full and the capacity was gone. This can happen in other industry sectors also, in furniture and other as well. There are new things coming out, EU, DR regulations, which are going to affect the supply chains in the furniture industry, in the home decoration industry, agricultural industry, and so on. So it's difficult to predict, but my prediction is that we are going into better times for the factories and a little bit more problematic times regarding capacities. And this would probably affect the pricing also.
With the current economy, the current disruption on the supply chain, definitely for groups that have already an existing supply chain, looking at de-risking their current supply chain is one step. And for companies that want to start to build from scratch, they want to set up a factory in China, for instance. We have projects here in the region. We've been to China, Vietnam. We go next week in Malaysia. We have projects in India as well. We see how here you can build up a resilient supply chain also by understanding what are the strengths of one country over another one. And after, when you choose this country, how do you build an effective supplier network? And when you have one, how do you combine that? And then how you double down by building a more resilient supply chain within one existing country?
I think one important thing is to understand also different countries in the region. Vietnam is what I call the best bang for the buck at the moment, but it's not necessarily providing you everything what you need. So you have to diversify possibly your supply chains into other countries as well, depending a little bit of the product what you are making. Let's take garments, for example. Vietnam doesn't have the cotton production, no own cotton production, which means that very cheap cotton products like t-shirts, where the production is very much automatized, are not maybe the best choice to do in Vietnam. Countries like Bangladesh and those can be better for that. While at the same time, we move in more complex products like workwear or military wear, which are demanding a lot of manual labor and raw material prices less significant. Vietnam is a good place. Then you have other industries also like casting, where, for example, India is much larger country, Taiwan is much larger country. So there is no unique answer and there is no unique solution for which is fit all. It depends very much on the customer and what they want to do. Against that also you have the capacity questions, the price questions, and all these equations are important.
Thank you, Pietro, for those inputs today. If you want to learn more about outsourced manufacturing in Asia, probably the best way to do is to reach out to us. Pietro and I will be very happy to discuss about your current situation, what are your plans, what you have thoughts would be interesting plan for you, and also discuss about the reality, because it's not easy and you don't implement an outsourced manufacturing within one day. It will take weeks, months, and having those early information from professionals who are on the ground and have done similar projects, you'll be well prepared, and then you can also make better decisions for your business. So feel free to send us your inquiry, your information, and then we'll be very happy, Pietro and I, to discuss about how to effectively implement or not such an outsourcing manufacturing strategy in Asia.
Yeah, the customer can save a lot of money and a lot of time by not making wrong decisions also. And we are here to help to make the decision and say that, no, that's not necessarily the best way to do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Pietro. We leave below in the description
everybody.
more details about our product and services. Feel free to reach us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Been down and I'ma get it right. Dead on sight like